Stanley and Stella Kowalski are this young married couple, and Blanche Dubois is Stella's older sister. And Stella and Stanley are living in New Orleans, and Blanche shows up on their doorstep. She's kind of down and out. She's lost everything. What you sense is that, you know, Stanley is a very physical person.
There's a scene in which he's just hit Stella. And after that, he breaks down. He completely breaks down and turns into this child almost. The thing that I have to get in touch with as an actor is his love for Stella. He really loves Stella.
You also need to really understand why Stella is so in love with him and what he does for her.
I can hardly stand it when he's away for a night, and she's just talking about how enraptured she is with Stanley. I can hardly stand it when he's away for a night.
It's so important to understand what makes their marriage tick.
Right away in that first scene, we get about halfway into the scene when it becomes apparent that Stella knows that it's going to maybe not be all that easy between Blanche and Stanley, and from there to the end, she's constantly pulled between the two.
What happens really is that Stella ends up in the middle, and in the third act, she's very much in the middle. I mean, by the third act of the opera, there's a lot of hostility between them, but also this strange sexual attraction.
Blanche is a tortured character. She's been through a lot of hardship and a lot of emotional, psychological challenges. So she has just come from a series of unfortunate circumstances and is really looking to escape into the arms of her sister.
At the beginning of the opera, Stella's very excited to see her sister. It's unexpected.
Blanche's very presence makes him feel inferior. I'm sure he grew up with school teachers who were not unlike Blanche, calling him a swine and constantly demeaning him and belittling him. And so for her to come into his house and exhibit that kind of behavior, it just sets him through the roof. He's very attached to the idea of this home that he's worked so hard for as being his domain.
Stanley keeps reiterating this principle, especially because he's constantly feeling attacked by these two women, like they're ganging up on him, especially when Stella and Blanche are kind of together. And he is always trying to establish himself as sort of the ruler of his apartment. And so we sort of settled on this object of this sofa.
And in this production, it's the couch that symbolizes
this
that.
Very domestic object that represents Stanley's rule over the house. He rules from the sofa. And then there's this other object in the piece, which is this table, which becomes many things in the piece. It's at times it's where the guys play poker. It's where Stella in the third act is setting up for Blanche's birthday party. So we began to identify her character with this table because it kind of represents, you know, a kitchen table always represents the essence of domestic space. That Blanche is she arrives with this trunk, and it's talked about a lot in the piece. And it's really her life. Everything she has in the world is in that trunk.
She says, everything I own is in that trunk. We also have not only her possessions in the trunk, but a lot of her feelings are in this trunk. So when she unpacks her trunk, she's really unpacking her baggage, her emotional baggage.
So our set design became very oriented around those three objects: the trunk, the sofa, and the table. And we started to develop our production based on how to use those objects.